Welcome to the Ears to Hear podcast. My name is Reed Justice McCrae, and if you're tuned in, thank you very much. This is episode 1 of this endeavor, and let me just start off by saying, if you don't know me, which many of you won't, the one thing you should know is I like to just keep it real and be authentic. And so I'm going to be very open and honest with what this is, what the goals are, what direction I'd like to take this in. And essentially, I've had this idea for about 4 years now. So to finally bring it to fruition, there's a lot of emotions right now for sure. And I'm excited to share all these with you. But essentially, as I've been online the last few years, and as many of us have tuned into various types of media and podcasts, I've noticed something. I've noticed we like listening to people talk about different things. And with that being said, there doesn't seem to be a place dedicated for open, honest, heartfelt, wholesome Christian dialogue. Now, there are times where famous people, celebrities, athletes, artists, authors, you name it, will go on a podcast and share some of their beliefs and their faith. But typically, the podcast is hosted by a comedian or by someone else in their line of work, and they are kind of more just chatting as colleagues, as peers, as friends. And so the thought behind this is, how great would it be to give people a platform where they felt the ability to share their beliefs, their thoughts, not to necessarily push any doctrines or dogmas, but to share why God, why Jesus Christ. And that's the goal, to share Jesus with more people. I think as I've observed media over the last while, there's definitely a lot of it that isn't good, that isn't ideal, is not a good use of time, for me personally at least. And so as I've tried to curate what I let into my heart, into my mind, I thought, while I have this idea, while it's kind of what keeps me up at night, let me stop suppressing it and let it come out. And I love that idea of, what lights you up? What is the idea or the business or the dream that when you think about it, your brain is just illuminated with excitement and joy thinking about it? And this is that for me. So I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done a podcast. I've messed around on YouTube and TikTok for the last couple of years, but nothing of this endeavor. So bear with me. I am not a professional. I don't have a degree in religion or Christianity. I do not claim to be an amazing interviewer or speaker by any means, but that's the fun of this, right? I get to learn and grow, and I'm sure I'll look back on these first episodes and chuckle, hopefully. Like anything, there's got to be progress, and you got to just start somewhere. So this is me just starting. I don't have a guest today. Hopefully there's some guests soon. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. The idea came to me about 4 years ago. I was driving in the car, and the what is it? The white whale or something? It's like the ultimate goal. I just had this insane idea about Denzel Washington. I love him as an actor, love his work. I think he's one of the greatest to ever do it. And as I've watched things with him and observed speeches of his, he is a God-fearing man. He's a Christian. And again, there isn't many places where he very openly discusses that. He definitely doesn't shy away from it. He's, given commencement addresses where he'll discuss his views. But how cool would it be to listen to a podcast of Denzel Washington talk about why God, why Jesus for an hour? Why, despite his fame and his wealth and his fortune and his accolades, he still chooses to worship. And I've just, sat on that for a long time. I don't know him. I don't have connections to him. So that's a very lofty vision. But I like lofty. I like big dreams. I think we're here for such a short time. So to sell yourself short and not shoot for something unattainable is kind of lame, in my personal opinion. But yeah, so that's obviously developed over the years, and I've threaded out, and I've paralyzed myself with over analysis of what I should do and how I should start, and let me do this, and that, and have gotten nowhere. I've definitely built some momentum as far as the ability to post online and not necessarily care what others think, but I've put this off for far too long. So that's the dream, that's the vision, is to just discuss and give people, again, really anyone, any walks of life, any, sect of religion, primarily Christianity, right? As a fellow Christian, that's what I think the world needs more of, frankly. And if you've noticed, which I have, there seems to be like a shift in Christian culture. I am 26 years old currently, and while there's a lot of non-religious stuff online and a lot of hate towards Christianity, and there has been since the dawn of time, in the sense that religious people have always been persecuted. I know people, Christianity is a term coined. Yeah, I understand all those things. But since the dawn of time, there's obviously the persecution, but there seems to be people in my generation, in older generations, and even younger generations that realize the problem with media. They realize the problem of being online and are turning towards Jesus, and it's amazing. And, we have these people completely changing their lives around for this idea that we all hold on to, this idea that we choose to have faith in each and every day. And yeah, it's almost like Christianity is cool again, which my very first YouTube video, that's what it was titled, probably released a couple years ago now. And that's what I've seemed to notice. And so one of my rules is I like to try and create more than I consume. I'm getting pretty close to tipping the scale on that. It's been hard, but I thought, well, let me create media that is good. And this is just my effort to add a drop in the infinite ocean of content that bombards you each and every day, that hopefully is good, hopefully is uplifting, and gets you through another day, another week of life. And life's tough. And so I have tried in my life to focus in the last few years on my time and my energy and what it's going into. And I think my generation, us Gen Zers, are realizing that our lives are just kind of fading away, fading to black, as we aren't really awake. That's what it feels like. It feels like as you become closer to God and start to recognize the true virtues in this life and the things that really matter and the peace that comes from living the gospel, that so many people, and many of us realize that even ourselves, we've been kind of coasting and haven't been awake truly, in this spiritual sense. And we kind of have this awakening as we draw nearer to God and draw nearer to things that are uplifting and holy. And yeah, if we just look at the statistics about screen time, and that's something I'm very passionate about, maybe I'll talk about that more in depth in the future, but we're talking 7 to 9 hours a day for many young folk to be spent on their little box, their little weapon of mass destruction, if you will. And I don't think that's that much of an over-exaggeration. But I did have an opportunity to spend 2 years of my life not on a phone, with 0 minutes of screen time every single day. And it changed my life. Unfortunately, that time period ended and I fell back into the world of media. And I don't want to, villainize all of it, because there is a lot of good out there. But I think we are all at the point that there is an overall net negative if you don't have the discipline and self-control to curate what you're consuming. And I just think media companies are, clearly buying your attention. There's that quote, if something is free, you're what's being sold. And I'm done being sold. I don't want to be sold anymore. I was texting a friend the other day. I noticed he was off of TikTok, and I said, what's up, man? I got to send you my stupid memes or videos. And he said, "I'm tired of being sold." That was his text back to me. And man, that hit me. And I love that. Tired of being sold. And I think it's time. It's time we turn to what's important. I believe that we are drawing towards the last days, if you will. Again, not to be a doomsdayer or a naysayer and, oh, the world is ending. But I do think the beginning of the end is near, truly, in the sense that the world is getting wicked fast. To pretend that it's not is naive, definitely. And so, again, this is just an attempt to do something I've always wanted to do. I've felt impressed in my heart to share, to create this. And, definitely would like some help, whoever that may come from in whatever form. But I'm not too ashamed to ask for help from viewers, from people sharing. And I ask for patience as well as I fumble through this process. But this being said, I'm driven. I'm definitely motivated. I've, again, sat on this for far too long. And to bring this to fruition, I think is something that has been long overdue. As I mentioned before, I may not have the credentials that the world would want to see or critics would ask for, but I am a Christian, and I plan to talk to any and all Christians, Protestant, Catholic, Adventist, Lutheran, you name it. I myself am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, have been my whole life. I've been raised in Christianity, have gone through different degrees of faith and devotion, if you will. And I again, have spent time preaching the gospel. Again, that was my 2-year little stint that I mentioned. And so while that doesn't necessarily equate to like a professional degree that I'd necessarily add on like a resume for why I'm qualified to do this, I'm not. I wouldn't say that I'm qualified to do this necessarily. But like I said, I'm driven, and I feel, even though I'm not qualified, I kind of feel called to this, and I have for a long time. So this is Ears to Hear. The name, if you haven't recognized already, comes from the scriptures, comes from our Savior Jesus Christ. And while this phrase, this idiom isn't like directly quoted, the sentiment that Christ teaches often, is whoever has ears to hear and eyes to see, let them hear, let them see. And it's definitely delving into the world of beyond the senses. This isn't that literal. Often he would speak in parables, and many people would not understand what he was talking about. The Pharisees, the scribes, the Sadducees, these very learned men who had spent decades devoted to the very scriptures, to the holy writ before them, and had preached and upheld these values, were now in the presence of the Messiah. And he would preach to them these things that were hard to hear. And they were hard to hear because their hearts weren't open to it. And it takes a level of spiritual discernment to realize what is important in this life. And, I've had people come at me for my beliefs and my actions and my faith. And, how do you know that? How can you say X, Y, and Z? Where's your evidence? And that kind of misses the whole point, doesn't it? If somebody wants to come at me for how I have come to know or believe certain things, I come back and say, listen, if all you know is what you have heard with your ears and seen with your eyes, then I don't think you know very much. If you rely on your 5 senses for everything you know about this world and scientific method only, that's great. There is a lot you can learn, but that pales in comparison to what God can teach you and what God can impress upon your soul about Him, about life, about the universe, about your future, your past, you know, general direction and his will, which is much greater than ours. And so that's where ears to hear comes from. It's about this spiritual listening that I think we must engage in now before it's too late. And again, I feel a little humbled at this moment doing this, but I have to. I must see this through. And so stick it out with me. We'll see as this goes. If you are watching this, there are more episodes to come. I have stacked this out to release weekly, and there will be shorts and different things. And, the goal of this is to be taken very serious, but I'm a man of action, not of words. I tend to not trust words very much, and that's something I'm working on, but I like action. I like seeing results. And yeah, again, those who have ears to hear, let them hear. I want to thank anyone who is listening. This will be a shorter episode, but I truly believe this idea that I have is, greater than me. It's greater than my capabilities, and that's where there's some disconnect on bringing it to life. But again, if I can't just sit around and hope this happens. I've been doing that for far too long. I think God likes when you turn in homework. God likes effort. He rewards that. If there's something I've learned in life, it's, you give God what you can. The widow's mite. This is my mite. What totaled to next to nothing monetarily from the widow, it was everything she had. And this is, I don't want to be super dramatic here and, this is my grand sacrifice. It's not. This is something I think I can do, or else I wouldn't be doing it. But I do believe in myself, but more importantly, I believe in God, and I trust in God that this can reach whoever it needs to reach, and that it'll become better and easier to listen to for those ears out there that are willing to listen. And yeah, just want to say thank you for tuning in to the Ears to Hear podcast. My name is Reed McCrae, and thank you very much. Keep those ears open.